Hi everyone, welcome to my series Finesse and Flair. Today is a very special episode because I'm actually reconnecting with a friend after years, and I'm really happy to showcase Mr. Vikram Mohan, Major retired from the Indian Army, who is rocking the corporate world at the moment. So, a very warm welcome to Vikram Mohan. Hi, Vikram.
Hi, Bia. Thanks for having me over and a pleasure to connect with you again after many years, as you rightly said.
Thank you so much, Vikram. Yes, if I'm not wrong, I think it's been easily about 18 to 19 years.
Yeah, don't make me feel so old when you say
It
that.
goes with me as well, Vikram. So both of us, it's always age is just a number. So let's not talk about age here. But it's really a pleasure to connect with you after so many years.
Likewise, absolutely.
So Vikram, I want you to tell us something to start with. Tell us something about your childhood memories. How was it being an army child, growing up in the army cantonment? Tell me something that really stands out about your childhood.
Sure. So, like a regular childhood, you being from an army background would relate to it. I come from a military family in the sense my dad, my grandfather, my great grandfather, all of them were in the army, and they had their own fabulous experiences starting from the First World War and the Second World War and thereon after independence when my dad served. So classically got a chance to grow up in multiple cantonments across cities from the north to the south of India, changed schools every year, made new
Nice.
friends, and the fun which comes being part of a cantonment with all the facilities that are available to you as a young child. And yeah, right from the beginning, I think the fascination was always there, having grown up in such an environment, to don the uniform, and was always enamored by guns, by horses, by adventure. And that's the dream that I had, to one day be donning the uniform and joining the Indian Army, which did come true when I qualified for the National Defense Academy and subsequently joined the NDA, completed my training from the IMA, and got commissioned as an officer in the Armored Corps. So yeah, that's been the kind of journey, and of course, it it's also interesting since the time you're a child, you're groomed in a certain way, but at the same time, your parents give you that flexibility, and was fortunate in a way that my parents were very supportive of letting me do what I wanted, pursuing my dreams, and there was no obligation for me to join the uniform, so long as I was doing what I wanted to do with the full, uh, determination and passion. And of course, that middle class morality and values were always something which were
Right.
ingrained into all of us as a child. So that's really been
Absolutely.
the journey from a childhood standpoint, and I'm sure you kind of relate to it with similar experiences from your side.
Absolutely. Brilliant. Wow. So, Vikram, what made you join the army? I know you said you come from a military background with your grandfather and your dad being in the army, but how come you thought of not doing something else, and what made you join the army? Why only the army? And I know you said you had this fascination for horses and guns, but you never thought of going straight into the corporate world. What made you join the army and go to NDA?
That's exactly was the calling at that point in time, because you know there's a saying from a Greek philosopher who says no man can step into the river twice, because it's not the same river and he's not the same man. So what we were at a certain age are very different from what we are right now,
Right.
right? We're all evolving as individuals.
Absolutely.
And when I look back and I imagine any other person in my in instead of me at the age of 14, 15, growing up in that kind of an environment and seeing the adventure which is in the offing and being exposed to the glamour of a uniform and tanks and guns and all the adventure that comes with it, I think that dream is something which is very clearly vivid in front of you, and you want to make that come true. And that really was the calling at that point in time, and it was a single-minded focus to be donning the uniform, and one worked towards it, and the dream did come true when I stepped into the gates of the National Defense Academy.
Excellent. And you joined the Armored Corps. So what regiment were you in the Armored Corps?
I was commissioned into the Skinner's Horse. It's one of the oldest regiments, and yeah, it was great to be commissioned into a very prestigious and old regiment with a great deal of honors to their credit. And yeah, that was where I joined initially when I stepped into the army.
Okay, great. So how many years did you serve in the army, Vikram?
Yeah, I served for a few years, and I did get a chance to work across different profiles while I was serving in the army, and did get a chance to work in the desert sector and fire those mounts of steel, which is of course a very fascinating experience. And as part of the army, you get exposed to different areas and different kinds of profiles that you can be part of. And one got an opportunity to also be a part of the counterinsurgency force in Jammu and Kashmir
Wow.
as part of the Rashtriya Rifles. And that was again a very fascinating experience because that's a different ball game altogether, and not everybody can have that kind of an experience in any other profession. So
Absolutely.
that was an opportunity which came my way, and that again was very interesting. So yeah, to your question, it was a set of different experiences ranging from driving tanks and firing rounds in the desert sector to looking for active militants in counterinsurgency in the mountains of Jammu and Kashmir.
I'm sure. I'm sure. So Vikram, how many years, like I said, did you do in the army? How many years did you spend in the army?
Yeah, I think it wasn't much. I just about 6, 7 years, and then I made a switch, and that was again destiny. So
Yeah. So
yeah.
that's gonna be my next question. What made you quit the army? Why did you quit the army?
Okay, that's an interesting question. It's the way I would put it. It's essentially the cards that life throws at you, and it's not about the cards which are given out to you. It's about how you deal the cards, right? How you play that hand. And as I said, my dream was to be in uniform, and that dream was something which I was living the life that I always wanted to live, firing tanks and being in an active operation in Jammu and Kashmir with an AK-47 in my hand. But then, the winds change, right? So life was sailing across, but the winds changed, and from the tailwind it changed to a headwind. And in one such operation, I suffered an injury, as a result of which I was put in a medical category and I was hospitalized for a period of time. So that is what happened. And as they say, life is 10% of what happens to you, but 90% of how you respond to it, right? So
Right.
I had two options. I could have continued in the same life. Of course, it wouldn't have hampered my promotion since it was an operational injury. I would have still continued. The army would have honored whatever considerations that they had to apply in deploying me in different areas. But I wasn't kind of attuned to the idea of arms fair officering, so I decided to look at different opportunities. And yeah, I thought about it at the time, and as I think life is a ticket to the greatest show on earth, and this was Act One, and here I was getting an opportunity to, define my own Act Two. So I jumped at it, and I decided to explore. And if you want to explore the newer oceans, you got to lose sight of the shore.
Right.
That's what I started to do, and I gave my entrance examinations. I qualified for business schools, and I pursued my master's in business administration. The army honored my decision because it was an operational injury,
Right.
and then from there, I started walking in the route of what the corporate world had to offer.
So that's how the switch happened from the army to the corporate world.
Yeah, exactly. It was a bit of a setback, and I'm sure all of us face challenges. Life is like that. It gives you, the best of times. It gives you the worst of times.
Absolutely.
So from the winters of despair, there is a spring of hope, and I was at the verge of thinking in a way that, life has come to a standstill. This is what I dreamt of, and everything is gone. What do I do next? And is this something which I really want, or is this going to be making me happy? But then it's something which you got to decide for yourself, and uh, that's what I was going to do, and I decided to then pursue something which was equally challenging. Of course, it's a start, and you got to start from scratch, so it's daunting. But then if you have the passion to chart a new course, and if you have the courage to say goodbye, life will award you with a new hello.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. You've got to, once you've made up your mind, there's nothing that can stop you. So, Vikram, my next question to you is that, we both come from an army background, and, we both know that initially, it is, we all know that it's tough, but then later life becomes easier as you grow in the army. And, we've seen it with our dads, how you get, you are literally pampered, and there's so much of help around and all of that. So you took that decision to give up all of that, knowing that you could have got the same, if you would have continued in the army, but you decided to give that up, and you decided to start afresh in the corporate world. So I'm sure it must have been a huge difference in terms of you leaving your family, being totally independent, and even things like when you have to kind of look after your own food and your day to day. So how was that? That change is huge. It's a huge change. So how did you deal with things like that?
Right. So that's an interesting question. I think the word which you use, it's a huge change. I'll kind of elaborate on that. And uh, the most interesting thing in life is that growth only occurs in a state of discomfort, right? You got to be uncomfortable. You got to be in a state
Absolutely.
of change. You got to be um, doing something new for you to grow,
Yeah.
right?
True.
Because dreams die in the comfort zone. So if you're in the comfort zone, if you are leading a very cushiony life, if everything is going your way, you're not going to be growing. So I
True.
welcome change. I welcome discomfort, right? Because you're not going to fail. You never fail. As Nelson Mandela said, he said, he never loses. He never fails. Either you win or you learn. You
Right.
never lose or you never fail. So either you're going to win or you're going to learn something.
True.
So my approach was that don't be afraid of the change. It's fine. It's good to be in discomfort. That is what's going to make you grow. So I welcomed it. I embraced it. It was tough, as you rightly say. It's not easy for anybody. Um, you got to adapt. You got to find something within you. But of course, at the end of the day, it makes you a better human being and you realize your unfulfilled potential. So from that perspective, I think it's always good to get challenged. It's always good to be in a state of discomfort. And it's always good to be pushed to the limit in whatever you're doing. Well, as you rightly said, army is cushiony to some degree, but it's also got its own.
Of course. Yeah.
It's got its own challenges, and there are some challenges which are much stronger than you would see in other aspects of life. And um, when you work across different countries and you meet colleagues and you realize that it's not very different the kind of life they lead, I kind of think of a concept which I've heard of is very popular in Finland, which is one of the happiest countries in the world, but also one of the most terrible climates with the
Yeah.
temperature being in minus degrees. And they have this concept called SISU, SISU. It's about showing resilience. It's about showing courage,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because the temperature that they have is extremely low and it's like
Oh,
winters altogether, right? So what they say
right.
now, that word cannot be translated into English directly, but what it means is the strength of will, of
Okay.
determination, of perseverance, and acting rationally in the face of adversity. So it's not momentary courage, but it is the ability to sustain that courage. And
Mm-hmm.
that is how they, in spite of being in an environment which is completely adverse to human habitation, are still the happiest country in the world. So learnings from
Wow.
other people, learnings from what the others have faced, and that realization that change is good and discomfort is good for you to explore your unfilled potential propelled me to continue to walk that path to your question.
Excellent, excellent, amazing. So, Vikram, now let's move on to your corporate life. So, what have you been doing, and how long have you been in the corporate world? And we've just spoken about the challenges that you had probably in the army. Now, what about the challenges that you probably saw once you joined the corporate world? Did you face any challenges initially, and how is the whole journey in the corporate life been so far?
Yeah, I think it's been a great journey so far, and I've thoroughly enjoyed. I've had the opportunity to work with companies of different sizes and scale across 4 different countries, and I've been lucky enough to work with with few of the smartest people on the planet from different backgrounds. So it's been an immense learning experience, and I'm in the field of consulting. So as a digital strategy consultant, you get to interface with clients who are from different industries and different organizations. So I think the best you can actually learn is by interacting with more people, and that's what this stint has allowed me to do. And to your question about the fact that it's very different from the army, but I would also like to believe that what you get taught in the army, because those 4 years of um, training are like a crash course in character education in a way, right? So they groom you and they train you and they give you those experiences which can help you to stand in good stead, irrespective of whatever domain you might step into. So that's been great. And the other thing which kind of helps you when you come from an army background and also when you served in the army is the fact that you become a more well-rounded personality. And
Right.
there's a design consultancy called IDEO, and they are the guys
Mm-hmm.
who helped Apple come up with their iPhones, etc. They have this concept of a T-shaped professional, and in the
Okay.
T-shaped professional, the upper bar of the T is what conveys open-mindedness, empathy, and collaborative curiosity, and a breadth of knowledge. And the vertical bar is about focus, which is the expertise, skill, and insight. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what one gets groomed for to become an ideal T-shaped professional, because that is what is desirable in any kind of an industry. Since you have a breadth of expertise across multiple areas and you also have a strong domain knowledge and insight in your chosen field. So
Mm-hmm.
that I think is really helpful when you have that background of the defense. And I think I can relate that to your experience also. I'm sure you would be agreeing with that, because when I look at you, you've dabbled in multiple fields from aviation to the glamour industry and
Right.
to beauty pageants, etc. So that kind of qualifies you to be a T-shaped professional, and that really helps when you come from that background to be able to then carve your way in any field that you entered and define your own path.
Absolutely, totally agree with you. I think you would agree on this with me, Vikram, that I think being army children, it makes us, of course, extremely flexible because we grow up in all kinds of situations, back or beyond places. And also, we learn to adapt very easily. We learn to connect with people very easily. And I think that is something which we have to thank the army for, because I think all army kids kind of just excel in whatever they do, because we've seen, the best and the worst while we've been growing up. So we've seen from five stars to dhabas to behind this all of that, and I think that really helps us in the long run. We don't realize it when we are kids, but in the long run, it does really make you very, very adaptable and accommodating to a lot of people, situations, a lot of things in life. And I think I really admire that about being an army brat. I think it really helps us doing that.
Couldn't agree more with that. Yeah.
So, Vikram, tell me. So, in the corporate world, I know you are at the moment in Dublin, and where have you been otherwise? I know you've been traveling around the world and you've been seeing the world with work. So what have you been experiences while you've been traveling to different parts of the world?
Yeah, so as I said, I have had the opportunity to work in four different countries, from France, India, UK. I'm currently based in Dublin and Ireland. And as I mentioned, in consulting, you work on behalf of the organization for multiple clients, and these clients could be based anywhere across the globe. So that's what gets you to travel. And if you look at the lifestyle, you get to be housed in the best of hotels, and you get to be flown to fine locations and hosted by clients who going to give you the best of the treatment. So that's
Right.
the glamour which comes part of the life. But of course, on the other side, you got to be thinking on your feet. They're going to be deadlines. You got to be making sure that the client deliverables are as per what the agreed SLAs are, and any anything which goes wrong will be reflecting on the organizations that you represent. So you got to be
Right.
doing much more than what you asked for at the end of the day. So it's high pressure, high tasks, grilling with a lot of deadlines, but at the same time, there's a lot of opportunity to make the most out of what this world has to offer. And yeah, that's really the good side. And interestingly, the way people manage it is that, as you would have known, the work-life balance is kind of mixing, and it's not like a work-life balance anymore. It's like work-life integration. And I
True.
wonder if you've heard of this concept called leisure travel.
No.
So it's
What is
business
this?
plus leisure, and it's very popular in the consulting world. So
Oh, nice. Okay.
you get to go to a place wherein you work your ass off for 5 days from Monday to Friday, which is the business
Uh-huh.
travel, and then you'll stay back over the weekend, which is the leisure travel, explore the place, immerse yourself with the experiences that the place has to offer, and that's the leisure part. So
Nice.
that's like a work-life integration, and it allows you to be true and
Your work
commit
and
to
yet,
what you were
yeah.
supposed to do from a professional standpoint, but also give you the freedom to enjoy that place. Otherwise, you're going to be going from your house to the airport, to the boardroom, back to the airport and home.
And it
So
makes it so much more interesting for you as well.
absolutely. So that's I think what I would highlight as part of what you said about the travel.
Yeah, excellent. So you're in Dublin at the moment. You've also lived in France. And what are the other two countries that you said you've been to? Four countries?
Yeah, so I did work in India, and then I was based out of London for about 5 years before I moved to Dublin. So it's been like
Okay,
traversing across different countries and always starting off fresh in wherever you land.
nice. So Vikram, what is that one thing that stands out? You've done so many years in the corporate world now. Any one incident or any one experience that you would like to talk about, which has been a big learning experience for you in the corporate world?
I think if to your question, what I would qualify as like a big learning experience has been just interacting with people from all over the globe, because uh, what you can learn and absorb from people who come from very different backgrounds is extremely enriching. The way we see the world is going to be very different from somebody who sees the world, somebody who's grown up in a different part of the world, because the way they perceive the
Right.
world to be is very different from the way we perceive the world to be, right? And just interacting with them is so much enriching. And I'll give a few examples over here. So I spoke about the concept which originated from Finland, and I had the opportunity to work with colleagues from different backgrounds. And there was this colleague who's again from the Nordics, and they have this concept of hygge. It's a
Mhm.
Danish expression, started off in Denmark, and that's again an attitude towards life which emphasizes finding joy in everyday moments, right? So
Nice.
they again have a very severe winter, and rather than trudge through the winter and complain about it, they have this concept called hygge, which is about celebrating warmth, coziness, family, and practicing mindfulness to help you tide over that winter. So that's an interesting concept that I
Wow.
picked up. These are those few learnings which you gather from people when you interact with them from different parts of the globe. And
I've
similarly,
already learned three new words from you today: sisu, hooge, and uh,
the first
pleasure.
one was
What
Sisu,
was the third one? Pleasure travel, right?
leisure travel, Sisu, Hugel. I can add one more to it, which is again very interesting, and it's from a Japanese colleague, and this is by a famous Japanese tea master. He came up with this concept called Ichigo. He
Mhm.
calls it Ichigo Ichi, and it basically says that this moment in your life is unique. It'll never repeat. So cherish its transience, right?
Wow.
And this will relieve you of anxiety. Um, you don't have to be in a state of constant comparison and competition with others. And you got to celebrate the uniqueness
In
in
you.
you and in the moment. So it's
Right.
about, that this moment is unique and it'll never repeat. So cherish that. And
Wow, what a
that
beautiful
really helps
concept.
you to live the moment, right? So these are those few interesting experiences, learnings that one had the opportunity to acquire as part of this global lifestyle that comes with the world of consulting. And I think those I would qualify as to be the biggest learnings.
Lovely. Really nice. I'm sure you've learned a lot. I mean, I've learned so much in the last half an hour that I've been talking to you. So that just shows that it's been a brilliant experience for you in terms of learning. Great. So, Vikram, before we end this talk, what are the plans for the future? Anything? I know that you can't really plan for the future, especially with today's times. You never know what's coming tomorrow. But anything that you planned in terms of what you want to do in the next, say, 10 years, or is it something that you want to achieve, or you have a benchmark and something that you definitely want to do in the next few coming years?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think there is a lot that everybody aspires to achieve. But my thinking on that is that I think let's not forget what really matters. And it's because at my funeral, people are not going to ask me about how great, they're not going to speak of me about how great a worker or how fabulous a consultant I was, but it's about, how I made them feel, right? So it's all about interacting with different people, learning, being able to help or inspire or elevate some other person's life in whatever capacity one can, be it emotionally, physically, financially, or professionally. So, what I, in my opinion, would aspire to do to your question in the next 8 to 10 years is just to get an opportunity to engage and interact with more people. And if there is any way that I can bring something of value to their life, that would be an achievement in my mind.
Excellent. Wow, wow, I love that. I absolutely love that. Okay, so I've got a few interesting questions for you now before we wrap this up. So, very quickly, what is your favorite cuisine?
I'm exploring Brazilian cuisine these days, and I'm really liking it. There's a particular dish over there which is called feijoada. It's made of black beans, so
Okay,
it's really yummy, and I'm exploring that cuisine. So yeah, to your question, it's Brazilian cuisine.
Brazilian. Wow, okay. I've been to Brazil and I love that country. Absolutely love the people and the food there is amazing. And what's your favorite country, considering you've traveled so much? What's your favorite country that you've been to?
It'll be Bhutan, and the reason is multifold. One, that everything they eat is organic. Second,
Oh, I didn't know that. Wow.
yeah, second, it's the only country in the world which measures its success not on GDP, but on GNH, which is the Gross National Happiness Index.
That I
Uh,
knew. Yes, that is very interesting.
and third, you're not allowed to get cigarettes into the country. It's smoke free, and they don't have red lights. You can drive anywhere you want. So it's one of the best ecologically friendly, well-rounded lifestyle that you can lead anywhere.
Now you've tempted me. I've got to go to Bhutan. I've never been there.
That's what you should be doing.
Absolutely. What's your favorite color?
um, it's black.
Okay. What's your favorite cologne?
um, I, since a child, was exposed to the cologne and the perfume which my father used to wear. I'm not even sure it's in production anymore, but the name was Masculine, and I'm quite still fascinated by that. I still have a bottle uh, from my dad still with me.
I think because you attach memories with fragrances, don't you? It's that memory that comes back. So because of
Could
that.
be,
Yeah.
yeah.
So what was the last book you read?
Um, the last book I read was by a Chinese author called Pearl Buck. The book is The Good Earth. It's about a Chinese farmer who comes up in life during the revolution in China and then makes his own fortune. It's won the Pulitzer Prize and a really moving, interesting book.
Nice. What was the latest Netflix series you saw?
The last one I saw was I can't recollect, but I think I saw one on history, and it was about the Roman Empire. Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
What was the last movie that you watched?
I was seeing this movie which is recently released on. It's called Official Secrets. It's on the Official Secret Act, and it's based on a true story which happened in the UK, and it's about a political campaigner, this lady who was about to stop the 2003 US invasion on Afghanistan, on Iraq. So very interesting movie. The name of the movie is Official Secrets.
Oh, nice. Interesting. I must watch that. Okay. Last but not the least, what do you do in when you're free? What's your favorite hobby? What do you do when you have nothing to do? What's your favorite thing to do?
Well, currently I'm practicing my photography skills on a nearby park. We have this superstar family of swans who've given birth to
Wow.
six baby cygnets, is what you call as an offspring of a swan. And they're the star attraction. So I'm just practicing my photography skills on them in a nearby park to where I live.
How amazing is that? Wow. Awesome.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Vikram. That was so insightful. I have learned so much today from this half an hour talk with you, new words and, lots of interesting things about travel. And I definitely want to go to Bhutan after what you told me. So thank you so much. Thanks a ton for coming on my show and, talking about your interesting experiences while you were in the army and now in the corporate world. So, all the very best to you for the future, and thank you very much for joining in. Thank you, everyone, and stay tuned for the next episode of Finesse and Flair.